Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all back to Applied Bhagavatam classes. We are continuing the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you remember the last time's discussion, the last time we had stopped at the point where Parikshit Maharaj wanted Shukadeva Goswami to speak about creation in detail, and Shukadeva Goswami started, first offering prayers to his worshipable Lord and glorifying his gurus, and then started describing creation. So the last time we had gone into great details about the creation that Shukadeva Goswami described, and this the seventh chapter of the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami goes on to describe all the incarnations of the Lord in great detail. So he gives a list of almost 39 different incarnations, and the number of incarnations that Shukadeva Goswami speaks are just a very minimum number of incarnations. These are just the prominent ones that he speaks about. And um, after he speaks about all these different types of incarnations, which include even Shaktavesh avatars like Vyasdev and all other incarnations, including Dhanvantri, Matsya, Hayagriva, Prithu Maharaj, Prishni Garbha, Naranarayan, the four Kumaras also included in the list of incarnations of the Lord. So, like that, after describing all the different incarnations of the Lord, then Shukadeva Goswami stops speaking, and then Parikshit asks another question. So, the incarnations of the Lord are so many in number. As we go ahead in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, you will find that the number of incarnations that the Lord has taken are unlimited. So, how do we understand this, idea of the Lord coming again and again into this material world? So, there was a king once who wanted to ask one of his ministers that why does the Lord personally come into this world? So, of course, the minister started saying that, Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavami yoge yoge. The king was not convinced. He said, the Lord is omnipotent, He's so powerful. Why does He have to personally come? He can just send some, some servant of His. He could send Garuda, He could send Sudarshan Chakra, He could send, any energy of his to go and destroy the evil forces. Why does He Himself have to come? So the minister, he didn't have an answer at that point in time. He said, I will do some research and get back to you. One day, this king and the minister were taking a walk around a lake. And while they were walking around a lake, suddenly they heard a loud splash. And the king, was trying to figure out what is this splash. And the minister told him that your son was on the boat, he fell into the water. And suddenly all the guards started panicking, and then everybody started jumping, trying to save the son. And this king, he was so anxious, he jumped into the water himself and began to swim. And then he reached where his son was, and then he realized it's not his son, it's a wooden doll. So the king was really upset. He said, what nonsense, why did you tell me this is my son, this is just a wooden doll? The minister asked him, my dear lord, you had so many guards and you had so many security people. Why did you have to jump yourself into the water? The king said, it's my son. If I didn't jump into the water and my minister saved or my guard saved, people would say that, he's a good king. But if I personally go and save my son, people would say that I'm a good father. So the minister said that's exactly how the Lord is. So when the Lord sees that His devotees are struggling so much and they are seeking out His help, they are helplessly drowning in this ocean of birth and death, and when He sees that they are actually struggling, His affection as a father, he can't contain it. So He has to Himself go. It's not out of he can easily send somebody that would show he is God. But when he actually goes himself, it shows that he is also a father, and he's a good father. And that's why the Lord personally comes over here. In fact, the first avatar, the first incarnation that the Lord takes is Matsya avatar. Why does he take that form of Matsya avatar? Of all the many reasons, one of the reasons that he comes to take the form of Matsya avatar is to show us, to show the world, when you are drowning in the ocean of birth and death, I will come. I will myself come and rescue you. So that's what the Matsya Murti is preaching in the Matsya Puran. So it is an allegorical thing. The story is a story also, that Matsya Avatar goes and rescues all the Vedas, and he rescues all the sages, and rescues all the kings. That's the story part. But the actual allegorical part is to tell us that when that ocean represents the ocean of birth and death, and all of us are struggling in the ocean of birth and death, and at that point of time when you're helpless, that time Matsya comes, ties the boat to his horn, and he personally takes the responsibility of delivering us. And that's what the whole idea of the word avatar is. The word agra, the word agram refers to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha planets, which is the ultimate abode for all of us. The word agraha means the one who pushes us or advances us towards Vaikuntha. So, one of the names of the Lord is known as Agrani. The word Agrani means he pushes the living entities, who he invites and he inspires the living entities to go back to the spiritual world. So, he descends to make us ascend. That's the purpose of avatar. That's the purpose of all the incarnations of the Lord. So when Parikshit Maharaj hears Shukdev Goswami speak about all the incarnations of the Lord, he becomes very inspired. He is really, really happy hearing what Shukdev Goswami is telling him. And Shukdev Goswami, he ends this discussion of all the avatars by saying that no one can actually describe and understand the power of Vishnu completely. So even the scientists might have counted particles of atoms of the universe, but they can never count the greatness and the qualities of Lord Vishnu. And so Shukadeva Goswami describes in great detail about how Lord Vishnu is omnipotent and omnipresent everywhere. So this particular section of the Bhagavatam, the theme that I have chosen to speak on today is think deep and work deeper. So the focus of today's discussion is going to be on how Parikshit Maharaj is looking at the way Shukadeva Goswami is describing the details to him, and what is the process in which he is dealing with that information. So all of us, we are all students of Bhagavatam, just like Parikshit Maharaj, and it is very important to understand the mood of Parikshit in understanding and digesting the Bhagavatam. And in this particular section, so the seventh chapter is more or less Shukadeva Goswami talking about the greatness of the Lord. So all the incarnations of the Lord he speaks about first, and after he finishes speaking about all the incarnations of the Lord, then he starts speaking about the greatness of all the incarnations of the Lord. And after he finishes this, I mean the seventh chapter is technically over with that description, then the eighth chapter is entirely filled with questions of Parikshit Maharaj asking Shukadeva Goswami to go deeper. That's the context of these two chapters. So Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that anyone who is favored by the Lord, because that person has done unalloyed devotional service to the Lord, such a person can only understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, they can never understand the Lord. So then, Shukadeva Goswami even goes on to say, not only just the great exalted devotees can understand the Lord, but anyone who is even from a sinful way of life, but that person has surrendered himself to the Lord can understand the Lord by simply following the footsteps of devotional service. So this idea over here is that no one can understand the Lord because the Lord is so great. But the when a person offers devotional service to him with a lot of humility under the shelter of a spiritual master, then they can begin to understand the Lord. There is a very beautiful discussion between one great teacher and his disciples. So this great teacher, one day he asks his disciples a question. So he says, in the Upanishads, especially in the Sveteshwatra Upanishad, there is a particular word that describes the Lord. The word that describes the Lord is Javano Grahita. So he asks his disciples, can you tell me what is the meaning of this? Javano Grahita. What exactly is Upanishad trying to tell us? So the disciples were all great scholars. So they answered, they said, the word Grahita means the one who travels. And the word Javano means the one who travels very fast. So that means the word Javano Grahita means the Lord who travels very fast. So the Guru said, what you said is technically correct. But I want to know from you, how fast does the Lord travel? So what is the speed of the Lord? How do you measure the speed of God? So the disciples were confused. They said, how do you measure the speed of God? You can measure the speed of a car, you can measure the speed of a cycle, you can measure the speed of a walk. How can you measure the speed of God? They said infinite. God's speed is infinite. So then this devotee who was the guru of these disciples, he said, that's exactly the answer I was looking for. So if you look at it from a scientific perspective, from science, what is time? How do you measure time traveled? In science, time traveled is distance traveled divided by speed. That's what time traveled is technically. So time is inversely proportional to speed. So if the Lord's speed is infinite, you divide any number by infinite, what is the answer? The answer is 0. So that means the time traveled by the Lord is always going to be 0. That means if the Lord travels from A to B, how much time will it take? 0. So which means if you say that I am going from say South Bombay to Borivali, it take me 1 hour. So that means I have left South Bombay and 1 hour later I reach Borivali. But if the Lord has to travel from South Bombay to Borivali, how much time he takes? 0. 0 means what? That means he is simultaneously here and there also. That's why he is called omnipotent. So when you say the Lord has traveled from one place to another, he is here also, he is there also at the same time. So it is not possible for a normal human being like us to, because there is a distance that is involved. The word Javano Grahita, it indicates the omnipresence of the Lord. So A point he starts and B points he reaches, and the time taken to reach from this point to this point is 0. That means for the Lord there is absolutely no distance only. He is just there in both the places. And therefore, when we try to understand the Lord with our logical intelligence, it fails. Because science cannot explain the Lord clearly. And that's why Shukadeva Goswami is trying to tell Parikshit Maharaj here. If you try to use analysis, and if a scientist tries to understand the qualities of the Lord, they will never understand. But if you approach the Lord as a devotee, and you keep your, material, mundane intelligence aside and then try to understand the Lord, then there's a greater chance that you'll understand the Lord. So Parikshit Maharaj, he was very inspired by these statements of Shukadeva Goswami and the detailed description of the different incarnations and also of the creation. So Parikshit Maharaj then asks Shukadeva Goswami a very interesting question. He asks him, how did Narad Muni whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? So, in the last chapter, Shukadeva Goswami ends by saying that the creation was described by Brahma to Narad Muni. And then the last two chapters, practically even this chapter, half chapter, is the description of Brahma to Narad Muni. Now Parikshit Maharaj wants to know, whom did Narad Muni teach this to? Whom did Narad Muni tell this, all that knowledge that he gained to? Now the question is, why is Parikshit Maharaj interested in knowing what Narad Muni did with that knowledge? This is the first step towards thinking deeper. The first step is understanding the lives of those who live deep lives. In this material world, we don't have too many people who live deep lives. Most people in this material world live very superficial lives, right? I'm sure all of you all in your discussions with your friends or colleagues and with your family members and all that, do you find very deep discussions happening often? Most of the times we find very superficial discussions happening, isn't it? You go to any social gatherings, you go to any parties, you go for meetings, you don't find deep discussions happening at all. The first step towards becoming deeper in our own lives is to find out, what do deep people do? How do deep people think? How do deep people live their lives? And that is very important for us to become deeper in our own lives. There is a very interesting quality that Krishna describes in the Gita. There are different aspects that the Lord describes about. And one of the things that the Lord describes about is he talks about austerities of the mind. And in that austerity of the mind, one of the things that the Lord talks about is gravity. The word gravity is a very powerful word. What is the meaning of gravity? Gravity means what is up goes down, right? But the word gravity also has another meaning. What does it, when you say this person is a very grave person, what does it mean? That means this person is very thoughtful. That means this person is a very deep thinking person. That's what the word gravity means in this particular case. So, when Parikshit Maharaj hears Shukadeva Goswami, the first thing he wants to know is, what did Narad Muni do with that knowledge? Why he is asking what did Narad Muni do with the knowledge? Because now he also has the knowledge. He wants to know, what do great people do with such knowledge? And that's why he's asking, what did Narad Muni do? And that means the first thing, if we want to become deep, if we want to become grave, if we want to become really, mature like these great souls, it is important to study the biography of these great souls. Now, how do you study biography of these great souls? By either reading about them in the different scriptures, or by asking great souls like Shukadeva Goswami to tell us about them, basically. To help us understand this and why we need to understand about great souls, I'll tell you a small story. This is a story that comes in the Sthala Purana of one temple in a place known as Vadavur. There's a temple of Lord Ram there, and it's a very beautiful temple of Lord Ram. So this is a Sthala Purana of that temple. So one day, after Lord Ram becomes the king of Ayodhya, Lord Ram asks Sita that, Lord Ram calls Hanumanji in front of Sita, and he asks Hanuman that when you came back from Lanka after meeting Sita, you come and tell me all the discussion that you had with Sita, but you didn't tell me anything that you did over there. You didn't tell me about burning of Lanka. You didn't tell me about all those things that happened over there. Other people told me. And that time anyway, I didn't have time also. It was very, very intense phase, so I didn't bother to ask you. Now I have a lot of free time. Now can you tell me in detail what happened and what all you did over there? So when Ram asks Hanumanji this, Sita starts smiling. So Ram asks her, "Why are you smiling like this?" So Sita tells Ram, "My dear, my dear Lord, how will Hanuman talk about himself? How will Hanuman boast about himself?" So she gives a very interesting example. She says, just like salt and food is the taste of the food. Do you ever find salt talking about itself? Salt hides itself in food, right? So just like salt hides itself in food, great devotees like Hanuman, they hide themselves in their glories. They don't talk about their own glories. They just hide themselves, inside the glories. So she tells very soon Valmiki Muni is going to write the Ramayana. You can read it over there. Ram says, "I don't have time to wait for that. I want to hear now only." So she says, "I can tell you, I know everything, but I can't tell you here. We have to go somewhere else." And Sita takes Ram to this place known as Vadur. And there Sita and Ram sit together. And Ram tells Sita, "Now tell me. Whatever Hanuman did over there, you tell me. So Sita, Lakshman also goes along with them. He is very eager to hear about the glories of Hanuman. And suddenly, as Sita was about to start talking about Hanuman's glories, Hanuman comes and stands over there. And he's like very eagerly waiting to hear about his own glories. And Lord Rama is really puzzled. And he asks Hanuman, "What is this? Sita just now told me that, you're so humble that you don't want to, you're not somebody who really speaks about your own glories or your own greatness. How come you are so eagerly standing over here to hear about your own greatness?" And Hanumanji tells Lord Ram, "My dear Ram, this is not my greatness. This is actually your greatness. Whatever ability I have, all the Ashtasiddhi, Navanidhi, whatever abilities I have, it is not my abilities. It is your blessings through which I am able to do all this. So whatever story Sita is going to tell now, for me, it is your story. It is your glories. I am only simply an instrument, in carrying out all of that." And this is a very, very amazing quality of great devotees. So now, when you study the lives of great people, when you study the character of great people, when you study the psychology of great people, that is when you understand the path to greatness. So why is Parikshit Maharaj wanting to know about Narad Muni? He is not so much interested in Narad Muni as such in terms of the externals, but he wants to understand the character of this person, the psychology of this person. What does he do with that kind of knowledge? And he simply wants to emulate Narad Muni. And that is why he wants to. So the first step, if you want to become deep in your life, is to study the lives of deep people. Study the lives of great people and how they live their lives. What is their thought process? What is their character? What is their behavior? When you study the lives of deep people, then you understand the science of becoming deeper. The second thing that we understand is by another verse that Parikshit Maharaj speaks. So Parikshit Maharaj at this point, he tells Shukadeva Goswami, "O learned Brahmana, because of me drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any kind of exhaustion due to my fasting." This teaches us the second aspect of going deeper in your life. The environment in which Parikshit Maharaj lived and the environment in which Parikshit Maharaj was hearing the Bhagavatam is a second factor that will help us go deeper. So the first factor is learning from the lives of deep people. The second factor is creating the right environment in which deep thinking and deep work can happen. What is the environment in which Parikshit is? Parikshit is in the forest. First. Second thing, Parikshit is among an assembly of great sages. Each one of those sages in that assembly, they are exalted people. They are not ordinary people. They are people who have sacrificed their lives. They are people who have literally given up everything for knowing the truth. Third thing, they were on the bank of a river, and again a holy river. And the fourth thing, there, shallow people were not allowed only in that assembly. Parikshit Maharaj left all his people, all his soldiers were left back, all his ministers were left back. Anybody who was not concerned with this deep discussion was left back. And in the assembly of such exalted and great sages, here is the deepest discussion possible in history of mankind is happening. So, if we really want to do anything deep in our lives, first thing is learn from deep people, and the second thing is create an environment for yourself where deep thinking and deep work can happen. Now, how do you create such an environment? I'm just going to give you all some thoughts on different ways in which you can create that environment for yourself in your own homes or wherever you are. There are different ways or different strategies which different people adopt to create this kind of an environment for themselves. The first strategy is every year take some time off. And that means you shut yourself completely in some place where you can do some deep thinking. I'm going to give you all 4 different ways of doing it, okay? Now you can decide which way works for you according to your situation, according to your life, equations, etc. So the first way is go to some place where nobody else is there except yourself. Shut yourself up for 4 or 5 days every year and do some solid deep thinking, deep study, deep analysis and come back. For a lot of us, we go on yatras every year. But you know what the amazing thing is? I know a lot of devotees who come back more exhausted after yatra. No time only to think deeper. No time only to study. No time only to do any kind of deep analysis. You sit on the bank of a river, people are saying, "Arey, chalo, chalo, time ho gaya." Yeah? Where is the time to go deeper? Where is the time to even breathe, basically? Therefore, at least a few days in a year, and I'm not telling you based on some speculation, I'm telling you based on solid research. Some of the biggest achievers in the world, the, the billionaires of the world do this. You look at the habits of some of the most powerful achievers in the world. They all take out a few days, go to some mountains, go to some place where they're inaccessible, and just sit and read books. Just sit and go deep. Each one of us should try to do this if possible. That's the first way of going deeper. The second way is a more little practical way. So the first way is called as a monastic approach. That means at least 3-4 days in a year you become a monk. Just go, shut yourself from the world, and you live life like a sadhu, basically. Of course, don't make that into a lavish thing, The idea is to focus. The second approach is known as a bimodal approach. So in this, you spend a certain chunk of number of hours on a daily basis, going deeper. And when I'm telling you all these ideas, these ideas could be for your spiritual life, but it also could be for your work life. It could be for spiritual growth. Also, it could be for mundane growth, material growth. So that means every single day, take a chunk of time, and in that chunk of time, just go super deep. That means in that chunk of time, try not to answer phone calls and messages. In that chunk of time, try not to do any kind of logistical type of work, not do any kind of coordination type of work, but only do some deep work. I mean, studying, writing, any kind of deep thinking which involves some really solid effort. The nature of the human mind is to move towards easy things. That's the nature of human mind. If you have noticed, if you're given an option of doing some very hard work and some very easy work, the mind will say, let's do the easy work first. Because the mind doesn't want to do the work that requires a lot of intelligence and thinking. It pushes it for the last. But if you actually see the lives of great people, they put that first in the morning, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. For most spiritualists, that's like the golden hours. The deepest work happens at that time. So, if possible, and anyway, phones don't ring before that. So, before that, if you can really take out your valuable time and go deep, keep your most important deep work for that part of the time. Or if not early morning, any time in the day, keep a chunk of time. The third approach is known as a rhythmic approach. Rhythmic approach essentially means you don't have all day long. You don't have time for taking out a week for your deep in a year. So the rhythmic approach is make small chunks of time of deep work. Keep a small clock. 25 minutes, set timer. And for those 25 minutes, do some solid deep work and then go further. So, like that, this is a rhythmic approach. And the fourth thing is known as a journalistic approach. Journalistic approach means uh, you have a very busy day, but in that really busy day, find 10 minutes to go deep. So that means for those 10 minutes, do nothing else except one deep work and then go and do other things, basically. So these are four approaches. Of course, according to what your situation is, you can choose one of the four approaches. The Greeks, the ancient Greeks, they used to have a very interesting concept called as a uh, eudaimonia machine. Eudaimonia machine is simply a room, basically. But the concept is very interesting. So what they had was they believed that every human being can achieve full potential provided you are in an environment where you're forced to think deeply. So what they would do was they would design their house in such a way that the last room of the house was the room that had the deepest thinking. So the first room of the house would be like a gallery where they would put photos of people who did a lot of deep thinking. Then you go from that room to the second room. The second room was a place where you relax and you get ideas. Then there's a third room, which is a library, which has all the resources for you to refer. Then there's a fourth room where discussions can happen and ideas can be discussed. And then there is a fifth room, which is a soundproof room, where once you enter that room, nobody can come in, nobody can go out. And no phones, nothing. Only where you do some solid deep work. Parikshit Maharaj entered such a room when he went to the forest. Now, tell me, could Parikshit not call Shukdev Goswami to his house, sitting at home, hearing Bhagavad Katha? He could have easily done that. Why did he go to the forest? And why so many sages came over there? Because all of them understood that here something really deep is going to happen. And all the sages were really interested in something deep. And why did that conversation become so deep? The conversation became so deep because Parikshit first created the right environment. And second thing, he already had studied a few people who have done this in the past, like his own fathers, his own grandfathers also had done this in the past. And more importantly, Parikshit Maharaj had the right intention. That's the third point. So even if you have the right environment, if you don't have the right intention, you can't achieve much. So this is a very important aspect. Katayasva mahabhagam yataham akhilatmani krishne nivesya nisangam manastyaksye kalevaram. O greatly fortunate Shukdev Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam so that I can place my mind upon the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, and being completely freed from material qualities, thus relinquish this body. Again and again, through the discussion, Parikshit is making his intentions clear. Unless and until you have the right intention, it will not happen. There are so many people who keep telling me, I'm not able to get up in the morning. I ask them, is your intention to get up? A lot of time, we really don't have the intention to get up. Somewhere in the back of our mind, we have already told ourselves we are not going to get up in the morning. And then we go to sleep. 100% you won't get up. But if you have the intention that I'm going to do it, no force in this world can stop you from getting up. So, a lot of times, the problem is not external, the problem is internal. The problem is whether our intention is clear. We want to study Srimad Bhagavatam, we want to read the scriptures, but somewhere we really don't have the intention to do it. Right? My suggestion to all of you all is that while we are studying Bhagavatam, my commitment to you all is I will go through the entire Bhagavatam in the next 2 to 3 years with you all. That's my commitment. But I really want all of you to commit also to reading it. So I am taking Bhagavatam in small chunks, if you see. Just 2 chapters for 1 week I've done. So now the next 1 week, before we meet the next week, it is good if you can read these 2 chapters and come. So that you are also getting a chance to go deeper and you're also getting a chance to, understand. I am studying Bhagavatam, I am loving it. For me, it's like great sense gratification. I'm just enjoying the experience of preparing and teaching all of you. But it's going to be benefiting you all if you also spend that time and energy actually preparing and keeping in sync with what we're doing, right? So all of us, we need the right intention for us to go deeper into our spiritual lives. The Bhagavatam is practically the most practical and the most powerful way and the most intense experience of actually going deeper. But whether we have the right intention or not, that we have to ask ourselves. There was a great saint who lived in the 1940s, and he was the Shankaracharya of Kanchi at that point in time. So one day he had, there was a particular ritual that he had to do. So the way it was that there was this beautiful deity of Chandramoleshwar Swami in Kanchipuram, and the person who does the puja in the morning, the same person has to do the puja in the evening also. That is the rule of the temple. So about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, this sannyasi, he got very high fever, and his body was, they were like practically shivering. The doctors who came to examine him, they told that it is impossible at this condition for him to do puja in the evening, because before doing that puja, he has to have a cold water bath. So there's a lot of rituals that he has to do. The doctor said he should not take bath in such high temperatures. He will really collapse. So there was a confusion that who is going to do it, because there was no person other than him who could do that particular puja. So this sannyasi, he saw all these people trying to medically sort the issue. So they called all types of doctors, and nobody was able to give him a guarantee that what to do. So then finally, the sannyasi, he said, forget all these doctors. Called some pandits. And he said, specifically call those who are experts in chanting Vishnu Sahasranam. And 4 or 5 people who were called who were experts in chanting Vishnu Sahasranam. And he said, continuously chant Vishnu Sahasranam till I start sweating. And these people were intensely, continuously chanting. And after some time, they saw that he was actually sweating. Fever had completely gone. And he was standing completely fit and fine. He went and had a bath in the evening and went and did puja also. The doctors are totally bewildered because this is beyond the medical understanding of it. So then the devotees asked him, how can fever be cured just by Vishnu Sahasranam? So this sannyasi, he said, the name of God Lord Vishnu's name is like any medicine. But that Vishnu's name, just like Ayurvedic medicines, when the doctor gives Ayurvedic medicine, they say mix that Ayurvedic medicine with honey, right? Mix it with honey and then consume it. So he says that names of Lord Vishnu is like the medicine. But that has to be consumed with the honey of faith. You mix it with the honey of faith and then eat it. When you mix that name of Narayan with the honey of faith, then you will be cured of all diseases. The problem is that we consume the name of Narayan, but somewhere the honey of faith is missing, so that it doesn't work completely. And therefore, uh, when somebody has the right intentions, then the process works much more powerfully in that person's life. So, first is you learn from deep people, you learn about deep people. Then, second is that you create the right environment where deep thinking and deep work can happen. Third is that you have the right intention, that you want to actually do some deep thinking and deep work. And the fourth thing is that you deepen your meditation. So we'll chant these three verses. These three verses are spoken by Parikshit Maharaj, which talk about the level at which he is actually meditating, the level at which he is actually absorbing himself in hearing the message that he is sitting and hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. So it's not just that Shukadeva Goswami is speaking at a very deep level, even Parikshit Maharaj is absorbing it at a very deep level. Shrinvata Shraddhaya Nityam Grantascha Swache Stitam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Visheta Hari. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Goddess Sri Krishna manifested in their hearts within a short time. And then he says, Pravishta Kamarandrena Pravishta Kamarandrena Swanam Bhava Sharoruham Dhunoti Shamalam Krishna Salilasya Yatha Sharat. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus, it acts like the autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchate Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panta Swa Sharanam Yatha. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. So look at Parikshit's depth of meditation. And Parikshit's depth of meditation actually indicates that not only is his intention clear, not only he has created the right environment for him, not only has he studied great people, but he himself is diving deep into the subject matter. There was once a person who lived in the town of Shirangam. If any of you have gone to the town of Shirangam, you'll realize the city is built in a very interesting way. The entire city is built within walls of a temple. So there are 7 walls. and the temple is in the innermost wall. So the 7 walls, within those 7 walls are houses. Everybody's house is within one of the walls. So literally, if you're staying in the city, you are like staying within the temple premises only, technically. So there was one person who had to go from the north Uttara road to the south Uttara road. So he had to practically go from one end of the city to the other end of the city. And obviously, there are two ways to go to the other end. One way is to go around. It's like a outer ring road. The other way is to cut through. So this person, technically, he had gone to buy vegetables, which was in one end of the street city, and then he wanted to go to the other end where his house was. Instead of going all around, he didn't have time, so he went through the temple with the vegetables. And he was feeling a little bad, that I'm going through the temple with the vegetables. So when he went through the temple, he passed through the altar of Lakshmi Devi, Ranganayaki, her name is. So he didn't enter her temple. He didn't enter the altar. He just, because he was passing by, he was feeling a little ashamed. I'm using the temple as a shortcut. So he just bent down, offered his obeisances like that, and then walked away. So after this person bent down, offered obeisance and walked away, Ranganayaki, she was very happy to see the worship of this person. She immediately went to Ranganath and told him, our child came and he called out to me, what should we give him? Ranganayaki is asking. So Ranganath said, Ranganayaki, you are the head of all the riches. Give him wealth. So she says, I gave him so much wealth already. But Swami, he bowed his hand and he showed me the Anjali Mudra. So the word Anjali comes from the word Jala. So the word Anjali means, if anybody shows this mudra in front of the Lord, he melts like water and flows. That's why it's called Anjali Mudra, basically. So she is telling him, the wealth I gave is no match for the Anjali Mudra. I think I should give him something greater. So the Lord said, yes, wealth is not enough. Give him the wealth of Atma Anubhavam, like self-realization, basically. That's like a very, very powerful experience. So she said, she was thinking, she said, he has shown Anjali Mudra. I don't think wealth of this world or even Atma Anubhavam is enough. So she said, so the Lord said, give him mukti. He's our child only, just give him liberation. And, after the Lord told that, he looked at her, she was still not satisfied. So he is saying, are you not satisfied even now? She is saying, not at all. So the Lord asked, why? So she says, the wealth of this world, spiritual experiences, and mukti cannot be compared to that one obeisances that he has given. So she said, she's saying, I have nothing else to give. And because I have nothing else to give, I am so ashamed. Parashara Bhatta, he writes a very beautiful poem. And there's a series of shlokas called Shri Gunaratna Ghosham, in which he writes about this particular episode. And he says that Ranganayaki, she was so ashamed by the thought that I can't give anything to this person, which is in comparison, so that she keeps her head bent. And it's explained even now, if you go to the altar of Mahalakshmi, her head is a little bent only, because she feels that I cannot reciprocate enough to the devotees who have come and offered obeisances to me. So this is the heart of the Lord. So the word alam means enough. The word analam means the one who thinks it is not enough. So the Lord is called Anala because he thinks that how much ever blessings I give the devotees, it is not enough only. That's why the Lord is called Anala. So the Parikshit Maharaj here, when he is trying to understand the Bhagavatam, he is not understanding it from a technical point of view. The understanding of creation, this all the complicated understanding of how this world is created. For Parikshit Maharaj, that is the outer part of it. But the deeper part of it is the understanding that the Lord has created it for us. And so that we can reunite back with Him using all the resources that He has created. And then Parikshit Maharaj, in order to understand more deeper the Lord, he asks a series of questions. Parikshit Maharaj at least asks another 50 questions after this. One after this. The entire chapter of each chapter is completely filled with Parikshit's questions only. How did the Jiva, who is spiritual, attain a body which is material? Both the Lord and the common living entities assume bodies. What is the specific difference between them? Brahma appeared from Lord's navel. Is the Lord's form similar to that of the material form of Brahma or different? Where does the master of Maya, Shridakshay Vishnu, lie? So he goes on and on asking so many questions. He wants to know how time is perceived in different ages and planetary systems. He wants to know about divisions of times. He wants to know about destination achieved by karma. So he asks so many questions, one after another. And after asking all these questions, then Parikshit Maharaj says something amazing. Parikshit Maharaj is asking all these questions to teach us how does deep thinking happen. Deep thinking has to be aided by deep questions. So whenever you want to understand any subject matter nicely, you have to ask questions. Then only you can go more deeper into the subject matter and understand the subject matter deeply. This whole Bhagavatam is such a deep discussion. Why are these hundreds of sages sitting over there? These hundreds of sages sitting over there, they are not doing anything. If you actually see the entire Bhagavatam, the sages who are sitting there, they are not participating at all. They are only sitting and hearing. And why they have come? So many of them, why they have come? They have simply come because they know that here is a person who can ask deep questions, and here is a person who can give deep answers. That combination, when it is there, it is a deadly combination. Somebody you can ask deep questions, because those who ask deep questions, they inspire the speaker to give deep answers also. You ask superficial questions, you will inspire the speaker also to give superficial answers, isn't it? The depth of the question that you ask actually brings out depth of the speaker out, right? So the sages are also amazed that this combination will never happen again. The combination of someone who can ask deep questions and the combination of someone who can give deep answers. And therefore, the sages are sitting there in that environment. One time, there was a great sage whose name was Tirukanditai Desikan. So he was in his elderly age, he wanted to go to all the holy places. But somehow, after he reached Tirupati, he reached one particular place where there was a waterfall, and he sat there. He was exhausted. In those days, they didn't have steps and they didn't have cars going up. They had to walk, and that too from wherever they came, they had to walk. So he was exhausted by the time he reached up. And he was sitting there near that waterfall and he was thinking that my body has become so old and so weak. How can I continue to visit Mathura and Ayodhya and Vrindavan and Badrinath? How will I go to all these places? Will I at all be able to go to all these places? He starts, thinking like that. So as he's thinking, one pilgrim comes over there and he asks him, so he said, I came from a place and I heard that there is a very beautiful waterfall here, which is named after one of our Alvars. His name is Namma Alvar. He said, do you know where the waterfall is? The Ezekiel said, here, this one only, where I'm sitting. This is what that place is. So this pilgrim asked, why is this waterfall named after that Alvar? He said, has he come here? So this devotee said, that Alvar never came here. In fact, that Alvar, Namma Alvar, never left his village only. He he would sit under a tree in his village and close his eyes and meditate on the Lord. Whichever form of the Lord, whichever deity he would meditate on, that deity would come to him and give him darshan. Imagine, you're sitting here and meditating on Lord Ram in Ayodhya, and you open your eyes and Ram is standing in front of you. You close your eyes and meditate on Badrinath, and Badrinath is standing in front of you. This Nammalwar was such a person that he didn't go to any holy place. He sat under one tree and all the holy places came to him. So, this person, this pilgrim, he said, he asked this devotee, how come all the holy places are going to this person? Why is he, how is that? So then this devotee, Desikan, he said, one of the names of Lord Narayan is known as Yama. See, Mrityu Devata is called Yama, right? But that name originally belongs to Lord Narayan. And the word Yama means that the Lord has arisen in everyone's heart. That's what the meaning of the word Yama means. So that means the one who actually enjoys the Lord within his heart, such a person does not have to go in search of God. He does not have to go to any holy place. Just sit in one place and all the holy places come to him, basically. And that pilgrim who was asking all these questions to this Desikan, he said, now you have got answer to your own question, and he disappeared. Actually, it was Tirupati Balaji who came there and made him only answer his question. He was thinking, will I in my old age go to all these holy places? The answer is that you don't have to go anywhere. The Lord is within your own heart. You just focus on the Lord within your heart. Of course, it doesn't mean that you don't go to holy places. It just means that even if you go to holy places, if the Lord is not in your heart, it's no use. But if you don't go to holy places, the Lord is in your heart, that's still, you get the same benefit. So, Parikshit Maharaj is, asking these deep questions, and based on these deep questions, so just like this particular Acharya, he asked a deep question and he got a deep answer, and the Lord made him only answer the question, right? So Parikshit Maharaj here, he's asking such deep questions. The entire Bhagavatam, from now onwards, if you actually see the entire, the rest of the Bhagavatam is answered to all these questions of Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj asked so many questions, and imagine Shukadeva Goswami, he's not sitting in the notepad over there, writing all the questions, Parikshit Maharaj asked at least 50 questions over here. And Shukadeva Goswami is going to answer every one of his questions. And if you actually see the answers of all these questions, they are spread across the Bhagavatam. So the whole of 18, the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam are answers to Parikshit's questions here. And then Parikshit Maharaj, he ends this discussion by saying, Sarvam eta cha Bhagavan prachato me nupurvasha tatvato rahasi udhartam prapnaya mahamune. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questions. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Look at Parikshit's, question, statement. He is saying, I have made inquiries with my intelligence. He said, please answer everything I've asked. And he said, please answer everything that I have not asked also. Very interesting, right? So essentially, with this particular statement, Parikshit Maharaj is telling Shukadeva Goswami, I don't want any shallowness in our discussion. I want only the deepest things. So he's saying, if something I've asked is shallow, forget it. And if something I have not asked, which is deep, please add it. So Parikshit Maharaj is really wanting to get the deepest answers and the most complete answers from Shukadeva Goswami. So Parikshit Maharaj with this one sentence is very clearly telling Shukadeva Goswami, remove all the superficial stuff and only allow deep stuff to be there. For a lot of us, um, to make time for deep thinking may not be easy. But I'm going to give you all one simple formula, a simple step that you can start implementing from tomorrow. How to deepen your thinking a little bit more. The simple step that I would suggest you all to deepen your thinking is make most of the unproductive time with productive meditation. I'll explain what that means. We all have a lot of unproductive time in our lives. What is the meaning of unproductive time? Unproductive time means nothing deep is happening technically. Like, say, for example, you are walking from one place to another, right? We all have to walk for certain distances. I mean, everybody nowadays walking 10,000 steps, right? So a lot of those 10,000 steps are unproductive time technically, or bathing time is unproductive time, or sometimes driving and traveling, commuting time is unproductive time. A lot of times cooking, if you are been cooking for 20 years, 30 years, it's just another, it's all mechanical, right? Cleaning, anything that is unproductive time, the idea is use that unproductive time to think. Like, I'll give you a simple example. What I would do when I used to work, I had a 30-minute commute time from where I was staying to the place where I was working. The moment I would step out of the house, before I would step out, I would write one shloka on a small diary and keep it in my pocket, and I would step out. By the time I reach my place of work, one new shloka I've learned. Many times I'm hanging in a bus, I'm walking on the streets, I'm in an auto rickshaw. All that time, the 30-minute window, learn one shloka. So we all can find ways to make our unproductive time productive. Or you can take one thought, like, so for example, one verse from the Bhagavatam, or one nice statement that you've heard, one nice thought or inspiration that you've heard. And for that 30 minutes, whatever amount of time you have, unproductive time, in your mind, think about it, contemplate on it, go deeper into it, try to analyze it, try to understand it. We all have a lot of unproductive time. The idea is how to make that unproductive time into productive time, to deepen that time. And that is the way. See, you're not going to get a lot of time to go and sit and do deep meditation. It is not going to be practical, especially if you're living in a city like Mumbai. Where is the time for doing that? But we have to find deep times in the midst of all the chaos. And it is possible if you really have the right intention. The word, I'm going to share with you all a very beautiful story that will put this whole thing into context. And especially this whole theme of deep thinking and work deeper, it will put the whole thing into context. One time, Parashar Bhatta was visiting Srirangam and he went to the altar of Ranganath. And out of spontaneous love towards the Lord, he just made a statement. He glorified the Lord with a statement. He said, "When I see you reclining on the snake bed, I remember how you were reclining on when Lord Ram surrendered to the ocean god, he spent 3 days on the shore of the ocean. And Lord Ram, he spread out a kusha grass on the floor in front of the ocean, and he was lying on that kusha grass for 3 days. So he didn't get up from that kusha grass. He's sitting on it, lying on it, he's reclining on it through 3 days only on that kusha grass. So Parashar Bhatta said, "When I see you reclining on the snake bed over here in Srirangam, I am remembering you, reclining majestically towards the ocean." And he says, the Parashar Bhatta, he glorifies the Lord by saying, the beauty of that scene is that it seemed that one ocean was reclining and looking towards another ocean. So suddenly Ranganath, he says, "Hey, you're comparing me to the ocean." So Parashar Bhatta said, "Yes, my lord, aren't you like the ocean?" So the Lord said, what makes you say I am like the ocean? Can you tell me in detail? And Parashar Bhatta gives 12 reasons why the Lord is like the ocean. And he says, the word ocean in Sanskrit, one of the one of the ways in which ocean is described, it's called Munir. The word Munir means that um, the ocean appears before all other waters. That means like rivers, lakes or streams, all of this appeared after the ocean. So that means ocean appeared first and then all other water bodies appeared, right? So because the ocean appeared first, it is called Munir. So he says, you're like the ocean. You're called as Munavan. Munavan means you appeared before everybody. So you're like the ocean. And then he says, from the smallest fish to the largest whale, all varieties of creatures depend on the sea. Similarly, from the smallest ants to all the greatest of gods depend on you. And the third thing he says, the ocean gave nectar to the gods. Similarly, you give your devotees the greatest of pearls. And he says, the ocean has no size. There's no, you can't ever understand how deep the ocean is, how infinite the ocean is. There's no limit only of the ocean. Similarly, there is no limit to your greatness. So then he says, the drinking seawater directly, it can cause you diseases, like something called salt poisoning happens. But when that same seawater comes through the clouds as rain, it is very tasty. Similarly, understanding you might be very difficult, but when we understand you through the acharyas, it becomes very sweet. And then he says, when the sea sees the moon, the sea bursts into joy. Similarly, when you see the sages who are like the moon, you burst into joy. And then he says, no matter how many times you see the ocean, you never get bored. Similarly, no matter how many times you see you, every day of the year also if you see you, you'll never get bored. And he says, similarly, the depth of the ocean is unknown. Similarly, many people praise you, but no one knows what is the deepest level of glorifying you. And then he says the ninth thing, the ocean had given refuge to Mainak, the mountain, who was scared of Indra. Similarly, you are the one who gives shelter to all of us who are scared of crossing the ocean of birth and death. And he says, if you get a good ship, you can cross the ocean. Similarly, you can cross the ocean. So he says you can cross the ocean of you can cross the ocean of Narayan with the ship of Bhakti. And he says, um, whenever you hear the ocean, when you're standing anywhere next to the ocean, you hear the waves of the ocean. It's like constantly, day and night you hear the waves of the ocean. So he says, similarly, whenever we visit you, you always hear these words, Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. The Lord is constantly saying this, Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. Don't worry, surrender to, take care, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you. So you constantly hear, that is like the waves of the ocean. And then he says finally, just like the ocean never dries up, your mercy also never fails, never dries up. Similarly, just like the ocean, you're also very much similar in qualities. Why is the Lord called, why is the Lord compared to the ocean? Because the ocean is so deep, right? The Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, Krishna ends with this verse, Apuryamanam Achalam Pratishtam, right? If you understand, the second chapter technically is the summary of the whole Gita. Technically, Krishna ends the Gita with this verse. After that, Arjuna asked questions, so he spoke more. But actually, if you see, Krishna ends the Gita with this verse. And what is this verse? The verse is simply telling all of us to become deep like the ocean. Don't be shallow like a pond or like a puddle, but become deep like the ocean. All of us, as devotees of the Lord, We all have to rise up from living shallow lives, thinking shallow, and working shallow to living lives that are very deep, thinking very deep, and also doing things that are very deep. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. The next chapter is the one of the most interesting and important chapters of the Bhagavatam, because in the within the next chapter is going to be the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So technically, in the ninth chapter of second canto, these four verses that are going to be embedded in that, we are going to understand the essence of the entire Bhagavatam. So the next, discussion is going to be one of the very important and very powerful discussions of the Bhagavatam. So please do join in, and we'll experience the most profound aspects of the ninth canto of Bhagavatam. So we are in the last two chapters of the second canto of Bhagavatam. Sorry. So the next session will be the second last Chatushloki Bhagavatam, and the next one will be the last, the 10th chapter. So with that, we technically come to the end of second canto of Bhagavatam, basically. That was pretty quick. We just began some time back, and we are already in the end of the second canto. I highly recommend all of you all to please keep pace, keep reading the chapters that we are doing, so that you can actually get benefit of Srila Prabhupada's words. So I'm explaining in a way that is easy for you all to understand and apply, but it is very important for you all to understand Prabhupada's purports and his translations of verse by verse, so that you are very much aligned with what I am doing. Okay, that will give you the best benefit of understanding Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.